Do you like history, Ed?
Well, silly question, mate.
Okay, all right. But do you love it in that? Right. Okay, I think I'm getting the point.
Yeah, you'll get the point in a minute. Readers,
Reviewers,
countrymen,
lend us your ears
and your spears.
And a huge thank you to all of our Patreons.
Thank you to the Pit Fighters, the First Swords, and all of the Bright Stars, Truth and Courage.
Hello and welcome today. I'm Will, this is my brother Ed, and we're here to talk about some historical fiction. What a genre. There's so many books to read. It's one of our favourites, really. And so we're going to be talking about 12 today, 6 each, that we're really looking forward to diving into. A range of historical periods, range of authors, and much, much more. Hopefully some of them intrigue you, or maybe you've read some of them already. But now, Ed, down with the sword, up with the book.
This is a really good toothpick that you've
Don't
bought.
you think that's what it was made for?
I couldn't find an M16, unfortunately, but we will be reading, I will be reading Matterhorn by Karl Marlantes, and this is a book about the Vietnamese War, which is not really a period of history I know too much about. I've seen some films set in that period, namely Platoon and Apocalypse Now.
It's a bit modern for you,
It is a
isn't
bit modern. Usually I prefer things with a couple of swords, maybe even at a push. A flintlock weapon. I mean, it's really don't have to. If I have to, maybe matchlock, but we'll see. So yeah, Matterhorn is something that I've wanted to read for quite a while. Actually, I'm trying to make a conscious effort over the next couple of years to read those books that I've put off reading for a while, rather than buying new historical fiction books. Let's read the ones that have been on my shelf for quite some time.
Maybe a balance.
Well, we do like to balance. Yeah, it's true. Matterhorn is well up there for me. It's the first book that I'll be tackling on this historical fiction pile. I've heard that it is groundbreaking in its approach to writing Americans in the Vietnam War, where you have a whole bunch of characters in the same platoon. So I'm very interested to see what I think of it.
Very nice, Ed. And then I'm going to a beloved series of the channel. This is the final book in the Boudicca quartet.
I can't believe you haven't finished. This is actually more upsetting to me that you've not finished this than you skipping.
The thing is, I think you'll be proud of the respect I'm giving it. I was halfway through, then I had some exams, and so a month passed of me not reading. And I thought it's disrespectful to just carry on from there. I need to experience the journey again. You can't just dive in halfway through, okay? So I thought, okay, get a few reads done, then return to this. And they got longer and longer. And also, if you know anything about Boudicca, the historical side of it, you know kind of how it's going to end. And I don't know if I can put myself through that emotional trauma. Amanda Scott is, as
she
Ed
might
said...
be doing a Tarantino.
I doubt it. As Ed said, Amanda Scott is the Robin Hobb of the historical fiction author. And that means she's incredible with characters and she moves you. And so when there's tragedy in the mix, I'm a bit scared. And there have been plenty of emotional moments in this series so far. But I feel like that's going to culminate in book 4. Plus, whenever I mention it to Papa Gwynne, the face he does is this. So I think that's pretty bad. Yeah. That's pretty bad. But I will be making the plunge into lots of tears pretty soon.
Personally, I would rather not revise for my exams.
I know, Ed.
But
so do I. It's required discipline.
That's up to you. Discipline. The next one for me is You Dreamed of Empires by Alvaro Enrique. And
I love the title.
Yeah, me too. It's a beautiful title. And this is a book that I think it's written in Spanish and it's translated. But it's a book that has only kind of recently burst onto the scene.
Is it a recent publication or just recently grabbed
Just
attention?
recently to me. I think it might be in the 2020s, TBH. First published in Vintage 2022. So there you go. It's fairly recent. And it is a book that follows Hernan Cortez, a conquistador in 1519, as he finds himself riding into the floating city of Tenochtitlan in Mexico, modern-day Mexico. And he meets the Aztec king, the Aztec emperor Moctezuma, and it follows their relationship, their dynamic, as the conquistadors are finding themselves in what is now known as Mexico City. I've heard that this book is very focused on the historical fiction, kind of the authenticity in the first half of the book, and then the second half is kind of like a mushroom trip, basically, where it goes in quite fantastical directions. But I'm definitely intrigued to read something that puts me outside of my comfort zone, rather than just being a flat out, all and out kind of retelling of this history.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very interested to see how it is approached. I've heard that Alvaro Enrique is a brilliant writer, and that his way with words, whether they're in Spanish or the translation, which I've heard is great as well, is going to be kind of a sucker punch. So I'm excited to see what this is like. Obviously, it's a very kind of horrendous period of history, and I have read a lot about this period, and it's something that I know a little bit more about, rather than saying my knowledge of the Vietnam War. So this is something I feel a bit more comfortable, a bit more confident with knowing the history and how it plays out. And I think that's kind of exciting for me anyway, as I kind of know what happens to these characters in history. I know a bit about their personalities. So I'm intrigued to see how Alvaro Enrique does them justice.
Very nice. And is it standalone?
Yes, I believe so.
Wow, and it's quite thin as well, which is different for us. Usually the standalone's either 1,000 pages or it's a long series.
Yeah.
And talking about that, I've got a 1,000-page standalone. That is Shogun by James Clavell. This needs no introduction. You've been trying to get me to read it for years. I really don't know why I haven't. Shogun 2 is my, probably second favourite game of all time.
Yeah.
And it's just my childhood.
Yeah.
And I love Japanese history, but it's one of those that I haven't read much about. I know at some point I'm really going to make the deep dive and become obsessed. So, Shogun...
So you know the Tokugawa clan?
Yes.
Just change the name to Toranaga.
Okay.
Exhibit A.
Exhibit A. And obviously, the programme last year is meant to be sensational, but I cannot commit blasphemy, so I will not watch the programme before reading the root material, because that would be disrespectful.
Good boy.
And I'm trying to be disrespectful and never say good boy to me again. But Shogun, it's meant to be absolutely amazing. So many people in the fantasy community have been reading it recently because of the programme, and they've had incredible reactions. And it really, again, just shows the correlation between historical fiction and fantasy. Some historical fiction doesn't scratch that itch, but it seems like Shogun is one that really firmly falls into the category of a positive for fantasy readers. And so I'm really looking forward to reading it. Would you say this is a page-turner?
It's a complete, political, just chaotic read.
Wow.
And I think this book is the only thing I think that comes close to Lonesome Dove for that worldwide appreciation. And I am very intrigued to see what you think of it. I think it's guaranteed you're going to love it. I don't know anyone personally who said that they didn't vibe with Shogun. It's got everything.
Yeah.
It's got jaw-dropping tension, which I think is what it does best. That you have this character, John Blackthorne, who is the biggest fish out of water you could ever read. He's a sailor, and he's just washed up on the shores of Japan, where in a country that wants to chew him up, spit him out, get him gone. And seeing how he is then used as kind of a tool to these various factions who all have such deep history with one another that you can only just about grasp at times, and other times you're just flailing like John Blackthorne. It's just done so well.
Well, I'm really looking forward to finding out.
What's great is in the programme is how translation is used between the characters, between one person who's translating what someone's saying to someone else, and seeing how things change.
Is it like that scene in Last Mohicans? Where
yeah, exactly. They're
one of the best
very
scenes ever.
Conscious choices, and it's just done very, very well. I'm excited. I might buddy read it with you when you read it. And if you do, because you've got a bit of a reputation, Will, for not
too many books, too few time. Yeah. But I will be diving into this.
Good.
In 2025.
Promise?
You can cut that out as a snippet and keep it in. Pinky promise is too far. But I promise I intend to. And
videoed yourself saying promise.
And you can
Pinky.
I can't do the pinky promise.
Well,
just in case.
Wow. Okay, the next one for me is...
Maybe I'll get addicted to Malazan and have to read every instalment, and that will take out all my reading time. Just got to encompass for that.
True, but you have to commit to 4 for that. Anyway, In the Distance by Hernan Diaz is a book that, again, recently came onto my radar. I got into a bit of a YouTube rabbit hole, and I saw that lots of people were talking about Hernan Diaz, namely his book Trust. And I watched a bit of his interview with Dua Lipa, and I thought his questions his answers, were completely fascinating. And then I looked up what else he's done, and this came up on YouTube as well, In the Distance, which is definitely the period that I have read the most about, which is 19th century America. And this is the story of two brothers from Sweden in the 1850s, and they are fleeing Sweden, and they travel across the Atlantic via boat, and they end up in America, and then they are separated from one another. And it's about one of the brothers trekking across America to end up in California to find his younger brother. And it kind of just, that appeals to me. I mean, I love this period of history. I love reading about it. It's fascinating. It's something that always pulls me in. I mean, on here, the Sunday Times said it's Huckleberry Finn, written by Cormac McCarthy. So if you know anything about our channel, anything that is inspired by Cormac McCarthy or gives off that similar vibe, we're probably going to read it.
Probably.
So I'm very excited to read In the Distance by Hernan Diaz. He's a very well-respected writer, and I've heard that this book it's not like an action book. It's not a book that is all out, intrigue with what's happening with the characters, but it is more about the psychological journeys that both of these brothers go on, which is definitely something I'm keen to read and keen to see how a masterful author handles. So I'm very excited. I'm
interested to see what you say. And another thinner book as well, Ed.
It's a 330. Wow.
Ooh, look at that. Talking about a thinner historical fiction book as well, I've got Warlord, the final instalment of the Saxon stories, better known as The Last Kingdom by Bernard Cornwell. Who's the main character, Ed?
Uhtred, son of 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 Uhtred.
You might have forgotten one. But
of Bebbanburg.
Uhtred is an incredible central character. This is the 13th instalment. It's another series that I think I'm just too attached to, it's really painful thinking of finishing. Talked about Boudicca early on, got this now. But I'm going to have to do it. I need to. I've had this wrapped up brilliantly, and all that emotional investment, you have to say bye at some point. And when it ends on a good note, you've got to make the most of it. A lot of series, sadly, the ending is the weakest part. Yeah. So when it ends well, you have to cherish it. And it makes everything you've read before so much better.
I will say I love the first probably 7. And then the next 5, I was angry at. And then the last one, I adored.
Wow.
So it ended on such a great note.
I'm glad you feel like that. It's slightly different trajectory for me. I think I fell out of love of it much sooner than you, and then loved it again when his children become teenagers.
Yeah, I think that's around book 8.
7.
No, oh no, but
7, 8, 9 I thought are excellent.
Is it Enemy of Thrones? The Empty Throne? Is that 7?
The Pagan Lord.
Yeah, Pagan Lord is good. It's after the Pagan Lord where I'm like...
Oh, really?
Stop. Just stop. And then, because it basically, Bernard Cornwell, if you know that he writes kind of with a template style. And in the end, in a 13-book series, you can't help, if that's your style, then you can't help but kind of have characters who resemble much earlier characters, but not written quite as well. And it gets frustrating because, what a great writer he is. With his Arthurian trilogy, nothing there is similar to anything else he's written. So it's really come on, Bernie.
But onto the positive, you loved this. Papa Gwynne did.
A great ending.
I'm hoping to be the third of Clan Gwynne to love the ending of the Warlord, not the Warlord Chronicles, the Saxon stories.
Getting you talking about the Warlord.
Firing right back at you, Ed.
Right, well, not a short book for me this time, but it's a book that is on everyone's lips, and every time we do a video about historical fiction books, someone said, at least 2 people say in the comments, I can't believe Pillars of the Earth is not on there. And I just want to commit seppuku that I just haven't read it. I can't say I've read it. Yeah.
You need to join those ranks, Ed, to get the historical fiction
I'm
card.
going to, because our good friend on Discord, Dan, has been reading it and he's been loving it. I've loved seeing his reaction. And it's just been... He's kind of the hair on the camel's back.
Mm-hmm.
It's not... My back's not broken, but it's the hair that's kind of made me sit down and think, my back's heavy enough now, let's read some Ken Follett.
I see where you're going. So Dan basically forced Ed to pick up a 1,000-page book.
Pretty much.
How do you feel?
It is 12... Well, I'm
1,200 pages, actually.
It's 1,100 pages, but it's 12th century England. And I believe it's about some people.
I hope so, yeah.
Building a monastery. Something like that. But I don't need to know what it's about. I looked up the premise years ago, and I thought it doesn't sound like there's any swords in it.
Yeah.
And that to me, it just didn't interest me, guys. But I'm mature now. I've had a child.
I think since we've read Glorious Exploits, we know that a premise does not explain what is in a book.
There's a club in that though. There's a really nasty club. It's a really nasty club.
Read Glorious Exploits, but there's plenty of heart pain in that. Back to positive, Ed.
But Pillars of the Earth is something that I think maybe even rivals Lonesome Dove on the loved by all scale. That it has to be loved if it's this big. Like you can't write books this big, and it can't and it not be a work or that is a masterpiece. Do you know anyone who writes books this big that aren't good? Brandon Sanderson. But anyway,
so what is it you'd have to say? You woke up and you chose war today.
Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett is something I'm extremely excited to read.
That's better. Let's stick with the positivity, Ed. I've got The Four Winds by Kristin Hannah. So I recently read The Nightingale, and
did you cry?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Great. A truly sensational book. It is hard to write a book about World War II whilst being respectful to what happened, but also have it fictionalised as well, because they are fictional characters. It's a very hard line to tread, I think, and she did it brilliantly. So I'm not kind of expecting the same level of emotion with The Four Winds, which is set during the 1920s, I think. It's the Great Depression, isn't it?
The Dust Bowl.
And and I think it's
just listen to Dust Bowl Dance by Mumford & Sons.
On repeat.
On repeat.
Again and again and again.
So this is the first book that I saw Sadie really weep at.
Really?
And she was saying, the middle's so slow, I don't know if I love this book anymore. And then I turned around, I looked back at her, and I've not seen anyone cry like that. And I've seen her give birth. Like, pretty impressive.
That is impressive.
Yeah, so well done, Kristin Hannah.
Well done, Kristin Hannah, for doing that. Yeah. Why are all these books just so much like emotional
Her books
pain?
hurt more than childbirth.
Why is it? It's weird, isn't it? With books, partly it's for escapism, but really it's just to inflict pain on ourselves. Well, we get attached to characters that terrible things happen to. And hopefully some nice things somewhere in the mix as well.
You read to feel emotion.
Exactly.
It's like a film. If you watch a film that makes you cry, it's automatically
a good film
with it.
Yeah.
I mean, Marley and Me, great film.
Well, something like to Papa Gwynne, actually. Obviously, a lot of films, there's kind of things in it that don't make sense. But if you're emotionally attached, you don't care. Whereas you realise you're not emotionally attached when you do care about the things that are dragging you out of it. Yeah. Because you're not forgiving it. But when you're emotionally attached, they've done a great job. The other mistakes, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how we got on that tangent, but anyway, that is The Four Winds by Kristin Hannah, and plenty of tears talking about in this video. Maybe
it's the best-selling author of last year, wasn't she?
Best-selling book. So The Women was the best-selling book.
Who was the best-selling author? Probably SJM.
I think it was Rebecca Yarros. Yeah,
really?
She had 3 books in the top 10.
That's crazy.
I don't know. Yeah.
The next one for me is a book that won the Pulitzer Prize, and it is called The Killer Angels, and it is a story by Michael Shaara, which is about the Civil War. Now I've heard, not sure if it's correct, but I've heard that this book was something that majorly inspired George R.R. Martin to write with his fluid multi-POV approach. And if that is true,
widely known knowledge, or have you got a source?
I have a source. It's kind of
ketchup?
like ketchup mixed with mayo, a bit of Worcester sauce. No, that's just.
You can tell we're brothers, can't you?
Yeah, sorry, we have the same jokes, terrible sense of humour, but this book is meant to be incredible. It won the Pulitzer Prize for a reason. Relatively short book as well, so it's a win-win as well. But even though I've read a lot about the 19th century, about the American West, I always read around the Civil War. I never read about the Civil War. Yeah. I've only read about the Civil War when I've read about Custer, and I've read about his experiences in it. But I always think, like, the Civil War is going to be an obsession of mine, I'm sure. But I'm just kind of trying to schedule the obsession later in life.
That's
when
hard
I've got
to do,
a bit more time. You know? Because I know that it could take up a lot of time. I know I would love to write something set in that period as well. But anyway, back to The Killer Angels. This book actually wasn't widely received, even though it won the Pulitzer Prize. And then Michael Shaara died, and his son took over writing in this universe, in his Civil War series, and he did a prequel and then a sequel.
So are they standalones? Or is it a series?
I don't know about the other two.
Okay,
honest,
but this is the
was written
standalone.
first, and everyone says just start with this. If you love it, go read the prequel, go read the sequel.
I like things like that, where you've got the
too.
choice.
Me too. Very, very fluid, but also they all connect. Yeah. Love that. So
That'd be what Lonesome Dove is like.
I would say...
Because you can read it on its own.
You could, but I was one of the outliers where I read book 1 first.
Yeah.
Dead Man's Walk, and then Comanche Moon, because that was with the characters growing up.
Yeah.
So, but everyone does say read Lonesome Dove first.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not a good example for me to judge, really. I'm the wrong man.
But you could read Lonesome Dove on its own.
You could read Lonesome Dove
and stop.
and just leave it there, because it's a beautiful story.
Self-contained.
So, yeah. Is your life self-contained within just a year? It's not self-contained.
Yeah, we can't ask that for every book, though.
There is an ending.
Okay. Right.
There's also
I know you love it so much, Ed.
Killer Angels, I'm very excited to read it. As I said, Civil War. Now, I've heard that this book doesn't glorify war, but the characters in this are far more positively inclined about duty and honour. Right. And I read in a review, that when these characters aren't thinking about duty and honour, they're making speeches about it. Right. So that will be quite interesting to read, especially nowadays where it's very rare to find a book that has that sense. Well, not quite endorses warfare, but it's more focused on you're doing it for your country, you're doing it for your people, and there are kind of positive feelings around it. Mm-hmm. There are lots of media, lots of books that are very much focused on really putting the red in the glorification of war. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to see what this is like.
Very nice, Ed. And then next up, Nikki on the Discord will be very happy to see. I'm talking about Nero by Conn Iggulden. And
the thing is, Nikki said we should read it, but he probably won't read it himself. Because he said we should all read Wolf Hall. And he's only just picked it up. And that's
not on, is it?
Last year?
Yeah, that is not on at all. But the line is, Rome wasn't burned in a day. I'm very interested.
That's great.
I've heard as Conn Iggulden's career's gone on, he's got a bit more historical focused. Basically, at first he wasn't as.
He makes Brutus a gladiator.
I know, Ed, and it upsets you. But what did you think of Gates of Athens?
I thought it was really good.
Yeah, exactly. And
I don't think he actually has a historical detail in there. I think it's like very much character. No, it's good. I think it was.
But he did have he doesn't take too many leniencies.
Gates of Athens is fantastic.
It is. And I think that apparently that's his new trend. So I'm not sure if that goes with Nero, because I've heard he's a very misunderstood emperor. Nero.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's a lot of propaganda that basically he's mental. He burned down his own city.
Yeah.
But apparently, maybe it wasn't his own fault.
It's an accident. It was at Baker Street, wasn't it?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, but anyway, I'm looking forward to this. Obviously, it's Nero. It's going to be political intrigue. And I have no idea who the POVs are. I have no idea what the main focus is, really. Is Nero the main character? Is it just about his rule?
Does he like wasps?
They're on the periphery. Does he like wasps? Because they are on the front.
Is it a wasp?
Or hornet, I'm guessing. Looks pretty big and nasty.
I would say that's a wasp. What do you guys think?
The verdict's out.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't really have much more to say than that, but Conn Iggulden, I think, is an extraordinary writer. I think that he just has a way to suck me in. And Gates of Athens is one of my favourite books
Dyson
of all time. He's like a Dyson, yeah.
I love the
name
me up. Gaius. Is that where the name Guy came from, do you think?
I'm not really sure.
He's a great Gaius.
But Gaius is
We should say
a good
Gaius
name.
is.
I love it because of Merlin.
Oh, Gaius.
Yeah. But anyway,
that's
Nero.
Because of Caesar.
Because of historical fiction.
And the last one for me is diving into the medieval period, and it is the 15th century. It is just, set at the
Do you think you chose a book that's big enough? I don't think so.
It's bigger than Iris. It's bigger than some sheep that we've actually lambed. It's genuinely heavier than some of the lambs.
Yeah, because some of them are, about 1.5 kilos?
Yeah. Rui was about 1.5.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, The Sunne in Splendour by Sharon Penman is a book that is widely respected to be the best work of medieval historical fiction of all time. And I don't say that lightly, because there are some marvellous books out there. But this book has such a great reputation. It is the story of Richard III. Now, Richard III, as a 19-year-old, he made great glory. He won great acclaim, really, in the Battle of Barnet, the Battle of Tewkesbury, which I've actually fought at before in my War of the Roses.
I didn't realise you were that old,
Which I know, I can deceive you. And after that, he went on to have a great career. He became king. And then there was someone who was coming for him called Henry Tudor. Great guy. And
I wonder who will win.
I wonder. The Sun in Splendour is, obviously it's a behemoth, but it focuses on politics, on warfare, on the characters behind the scenes, as well as the characters who are most important to the Wars of the Roses, the latter end anyway. And I am very excited to be reading it. Obviously, it's a book that you kind of put off because it's so big. But, you know, I'm reading Count of Monte Cristo this year, so I'm not scared of big books anymore.
Nice,
I'm kind of an adult now.
Look at you go.
Look at you go.
And I'm guessing that if you're intrigued in the historical basis of A Song of Ice and Fire, you should read this.
Yeah.
And if you love Dan Jones's The War of the Roses, you should read this. But you can be our guinea pig, Ed.
Yes.
And say, this actually great writing? Because we know the content's interesting, but it's so convoluted.
Yeah, I won't lie. Do you know what? I've never read anything about the Wars of the Roses that I've enjoyed. Because I just... Even though I reenact it, I just don't enjoy the history.
Because it's too complicated.
No, I would say that obviously there are a lot of characters. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of Edwards. I mean, there's only room for one Edward.
But the thing is, are there many people with a name as cool as Warwick Kingmaker?
No, that's great. There was a lot of Kingmakers, but Warwick was cool. But there was just something about it with... I don't know, it just never appealed to me.
Have you read War of the Roses, Dan Jones's?
No,
because Michael Kist said that he read a lot about War of the Roses, didn't really enjoy them, suddenly read that, all clicked into place, and he was like, this is awesome. Yeah,
I'm waiting to read it, but I thought I'm going to read... I've read Conn Iggulden's Wars of the Roses series, and I did not enjoy that, unfortunately, but I'm very interested to see... This book is just meant to be the best of them all. If you're going to read one, read this one, so I'm going to do it, guys.
Very nice, Ed.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And then last up for me, this is my most anticipated... historical fiction release of 2025, one of the most anticipated of the year regardless of genre, and it is Boudicca's Daughter by Elodie Harper, the author of the Wolf Den trilogy. Book 1, 2 and 3 are all sensational, blew me out of the water. I thought, you can't get better, and then she did. And the characterization is superb, chef's kiss, absolutely fantastic. We're character driven readers. She delivered on that basis. So I'm really looking forward to Boudicca's Daughter.
She was like DPD driver. Like,
she delivered.
At the right time as well, and, you know, on time.
A reliable DPD driver. Because sometimes, you know, they say they delivered the parcel and it's not there.
I think DPD are pretty good. Not an every driver.
No, you don't want an every driver.
What's the other one?
Royal Mail?
Yeah, it begins with Y.
Yodel.
Don't even get me started.
But Ed, I think people hear about the historical fiction books, not about you know, delivery companies.
Yeah.
Boudicca's Daughter. It's a little bit strange because we love the Boudicca series so much by Amanda Scott, but I feel that they are very different writers. They're both kind of melodic in their prose style, but the rest is really different. And so I think that it's going to be a very different take on Boudicca, so that it's not jarring. You know, when you read, you know, it takes of after that are basically the same, but not quite as good as another one you've read or watched.
This is called Boudicca's Daughter. So is Boudicca's Daughter the POV, which is a really interesting stance to take because, you know, if you're writing about powerful women, Boudicca's Daughter is such a fascinating choice for lots of things that happened in history, but also what she signified as well. And think of the family that she was in. It's a really bold choice to write about Boudicca's Daughter and not focus it on Boudicca. So I wonder, obviously Boudicca will probably feature heavily.
Of course, yeah, but I'm wondering, is it pre-rebellion? Is it as the rebellion starts? Lots of choices to make, and it is a standalone, so a lot to fit in here, but I have absolute faith in Elodie Harper, and if I love this, she will be in my list of favourite authors of all time. Yeah. And I'll read anything she puts out.
Before you put some of your favourite authors, do you wait to read two different like series or two different books?
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, if you like book one of a trilogy, you're probably going to like all three of them, aren't you?
I'd say if a series is like 6 books or longer, I'll let you know if I read them and love them all. I'll let them be one of my favourite authors, like Malazan.
That's very nice.
I'll allow it. But when it's a trilogy, I think, you know what, just one other book, and then I can justify having it in the mix.
Yeah, you're allowed to.
Thank you.
It is your list.
Thank you.
We love historical fiction. Please tell us below what you guys think of these books. Are you going to be picking any of these up? We do have lots of read-alongs scheduled on the Discord. Buddy reads as well. Lots of people going through historical fiction as well as fantasy. So please click on the link below and catch us over there.
Thank you, and let us know any of the historical fiction books that are on your mind. Truth and Courage, The Brothers Gwynne.
Truth and Courage, The Brothers Gwynne.